Hi, David. How are you?
I'm fine, Douglas. I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. The first thing I saw in your bio that I wanted to ask you right off the bat was thought leader. What is a thought leader?
Well, a thought leader is someone who, ironically, it seems like a contradiction, but is someone who is reflective in a way that takes a look at what is happening in the world and then applies that to their own level of expertise and then starts to document that and write about that and talk about that. So they're not a futurist in any way, but they are someone who is looking at their area of expertise and the industry they're involved in, as a result of that, are taking a look at what could be and what people need to be doing to be successful in certain areas of their life and their industry. That's how I would define a thought leader.
Okay, and this is what you do for a living?
Well, I am I've been a professional speaker and a business consultant for over 40 years, and I'm also a writer, having now published 5 books and one in process at the moment. So that'll be 6 books sometime next year. So I take these ideas and these thoughts and I document them, put them into books, and then go out into the world and speak about them at conferences and meetings where I get that sort of invitation. So yeah, that's how I do it.
Okay, who do you receive invitations from? What sort of people would hire you to come and speak?
Well, up until now, you would have a lot of businesses would do that. People, some of my clients include Delta Airlines and Pulte Homes and a company here in the where I live in the Twin Cities, Thrivent. But I've spoken to the IBMs of the world, the Fidelities. So wherever they have a conference and they're looking to, if you would like, inspire their people, give their people new ideas and fresh approaches to the way they go about business. That would be one area. I do a lot of work in the not-for-profit world, primarily because a key theme to my work is to have clarity of purpose. And I talk a lot about the importance of contribution and how we contribute not only to those we work for, but to our families and friends, and also as a result of that, the world itself. So it's a very popular message in the not-for-profit sector. So there's a broad group of people that would invite me to speak, but it would be someone I call my work practical inspiration. So they're looking to make a deep connection, if you like, with who they are and what they want to be about. But they want some good ideas. They want some great ideas that they can take away and put into practice. That's what I would do.
All right. You also are a film producer, is that correct?
Yes, I'm not a film producer by vocation. I am a film producer because I've come up, or not come up, I have been introduced to a couple of amazing stories that I felt compelled to make sure they were never ever forgotten. And so I came into it as a person who said, listen, I want to get this story told. How do I go about it? And that resulted in my becoming a producer, a film producer. But really, if you define it clearly, it's more the executive producer. It's someone who puts the package together and makes the film viable and makes it happen. So yes, I've made 2 films. One was called The Power of Purpose. That was a documentary about an extraordinary Canadian boy called Terry Fox, who ran the greatest marathon in history. In fact, Google only in the last few days have honored him all around the world for what he achieved 40 years ago. And I also produced a film called If I Were Brave, which interestingly was made on a golf course with an international competition of physically disabled people who were playing golf and doing it in an extraordinary way. But the idea behind the film was, how did they transcend these difficulties and these handicaps, and what was their approach to life? So it was more about that, getting in how we as individuals handle adversity. And they were absolutely marvelous examples of that, as with golf being a kind of a metaphor, if you like.
Where are these films available that people can see them?
Yeah, you can. You should be able to see them on YouTube.
Okay.
And if not, inquire through my website, info@davidmcnally.com, and I'll make sure you get to see them.
All right, super. You've got a new book out called Mark of an Eagle. Is that the one you're promoting currently?
It is. That is my most recent book, right, Daniel? It is.
Okay, tell us a bit about that book.
That book was inspired by the fact that I'd spent over 40 years in what I would call the human development industry, the personal growth industry, and working with many companies, and then as a result of that, thousands and thousands of individuals. And what became very clear to me was that every human being leaves their mark on the world. Now, some of these marks are very significant. We get to know about these people. They're famous. They may be the Oprahs of the world, the Bonos of the world, whatever it might be. And some people are not known at all. But through the way they live their lives, they leave an incredible and indelible mark. Other people may not leave so much of a mark, but they do leave a mark. And so what the book is about is really addressing the fact that people want to leave a mark. If you look at the interviews with people who've reached the later stages, maybe we could call them senior citizens. I like to call them chronologically gifted because I'm one of them.
Okay.
But they all want to know that their lives matter, Douglas. We all want to feel that our lives mattered. Well, how do they matter? It matters when every day we do something that we feel matters, that we touch people in a positive way. And it doesn't have to be the big things. It can be very little things, although little is a subjective analysis, but it's all the millions of little things that make the world work. And so the book is about you, me, and everybody else, and how do we leave the mark that we want to leave in the world, and what is the composition that makes that happen. That's what the book is about.
Okay, how important is it to leave a mark to leave your legacy? I mean, it's debatable whether one's legacy has to be known by millions of people, or your legacy could just be known to your family. But I wouldn't say that either one was of any less importance.
Completely agree, without any question about that. Again, you could say leaving your mark. You should say leaving your legacy. They're sort of synonymous, if you like, with each other. And I would suggest to you that any human being who has done their very best to live a well-lived life. In other words, if they have a family, to treat that family with respect, to bring their children up in the best way possible. If they have made a commitment to contributing in the workplace as the best that they can, and they've been a good friend to others, I think that all shapes the world. And I love what this particular statement, and that is that, on spaceship Earth, there are no passengers, right? That was the famous scientist Buckminster Fuller. So we're all part of the crew of spaceship Earth. Many people don't understand that, don't realize that, don't even think about that, to be truthful, but they do. Every little touch point that we have with others matters. It impacts in a certain way. So what I'm endeavoring to do in Mark of an Eagle is to say, look, how you live your life, how the goals that you set, the intentions that you have, the reason that you get up in the morning, the purpose that you have for living, all of these have ripple effects on the people around you. And if you can realize that, you can become, Douglas, more conscious of those actions in everyday life, because people can't see inside of us. I can't see your intentions. I can only see what you do. So I assess you, I make my, if you like, judgments, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but I judge you and assess you by your actions. And so I'm endeavoring again to make people more conscious of the impact of those actions.
It's interesting you said people can't see inside of us. I tend to believe that we can't see outside of us.
I'm going to ask you to just clarify that a little bit more.
Well, I mean, we can look at ourselves in the mirror, we can see ourselves on video, but we don't see what other people see. Because I've had people tell me things that I wasn't even aware that I did. And it could be just something habitual. It could be a manner of speaking, something that I say, or the way I say it, that I'm not conscious of. But other people are. That's what I mean. We don't see that.
We don't, and I think that's very, very insightful in the way that if you look at it in this way, when we talk to leaders in organizations, we say that the number one characteristic of a good leader is self-awareness, is to be aware of the impact of what you do, which may seem insignificant to you, but has a connection to others that is either favorable, or unfavorable. And so self-awareness in all of us as human beings, and that means the willingness, of course, to take some feedback, and that takes courage, if you like, to have that willingness to do that. So I would say to you that what you're suggesting is, we're not very aware at times of many, many different things, and we won't correct that until people tell us. I have a favorite philosopher and theologian called John O'Donohue, wonderful man, and unfortunately he's passed away far too young, but he talks about the face. He says something like you in a different way. No one has actually seen their own face. You may look in a mirror and see something, and you say, well, that's my face. And sometimes that mirror will give you feedback as, well, you're not that bad looking. And other times it will look at you and say, oh my gosh, and give you some negative feedback, right? That depends upon, as you get older, Douglas, that depends on the lighting.
Very
So
true.
At 74 years of age now, I always try to go for the favorable lighting in when I'm looking at myself in a mirror. But that face, and no one has exactly the same face, and the way our face looks is different to different people. It really is. We may be recognizable by a lot of different people, but they see us in a very different way. And to some people, for example, I'm fortunate that my wife thinks my face is good, so that's great. But and she's attracted to my face, but lots of people wouldn't be attracted to my face in a similar way. So I think you're right on when you say we often can't see outside of ourselves.
Well, it's true. David, we do have to wrap this up. Do you have a website you want to give out very quickly?
Yes, if people want to find out about my books or know a little bit more about me, my website is www.davidmcnally.com. I think they will find that quite informative, Douglas.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was an interesting conversation. Best of luck with your new book. I hope it does well.
Thank you very